Alrighty guys, welcome to chapter 3 of this tutorial on Cinema 4D and MotionBuilder, and getting our motions from MotionBuilder, our pre-visualization tool, back here in Cinema 4D. We're back in Cinema 4D here for a couple of seconds. What we want to do in Cinema 4D is export our character out for MotionBuilder. And to be on the safe side, we want to export this out in such a way that we don't really have a lot of information that MotionBuilder has to deal with. If you leave a lot of this stuff in here, MotionBuilder is going to take forever to load up your FBX file, and in the case of these poses, it could just get really ugly. So what I like to do, you want to do this bearing in mind that you're going to save this out for a different program. You want to make sure not to save this out as your current project, because then you'll lose all the stuff that you're going to need later on in order to create any extra animations that you might need for in Cinema. So using the test to edit, and making sure not to save it, what we're going to do is we're just going to come in here and just clean up our hierarchy here. We're going to delete the floor, we're going to delete the test face capture, we're going to, we can go ahead and keep the point caches, but we're going to want to delete the poses. We definitely don't need those. All we really need is the skeleton, the character, mesh, and the dress is skinned to her, so we can take the dress in there as well. Alright, and being very careful here, what we want to do is we want to hit save as, not save. And naming convention wise, I like to save my MotionBuilder characters in the FBX folder since it's FBX. And I like to save them as usually the character name, or the particular character I'm working on, and _MB. As you can see, I already saved one. I ran through this tutorial a few times, just refreshing my memory on a few things in MotionBuilder. So I already have one, but we're going to go ahead and overwrite it. So we're going to call our tester _MB for MotionBuilder. This to let us know that this is our MotionBuilder FBX file. And we'll also go ahead and delete this test one. We don't need that anymore. And go ahead and save. And we'll see how that goes. Alright. And what we actually did was we actually saved a scene, a C4D scene. That's not what we want to do. We want to actually export this out. The great thing is we saved a Cinema 4D scene, so technically you find that you're going to just need this as your default sort of mesh, and you're not going to really change her too much anymore. You may want to save out an MB scene, C4D scene, that you could just go to and export out a MotionBuilder file real quick from. But we're going to actually export, and we're going to use export to FBX, and we're actually going to overwrite this, and go ahead and save that. And we don't have any animation, so we don't need to worry about that. MotionBuilder does not read in Cinema 4D materials very well, or I really need to look up a tutorial on how to actually get the character to look like this in MotionBuilder, because I haven't figured it out yet. We're not going to save as a text file, because as I said in a previous tutorial, I've had nightmares with the text files, even despite that they're human readable and binary files. I mean, they're binary, so you mess up one digit in there or they get corrupt. With a text file, you can kind of sort of reconstruct them, but you pay for that, especially as your scenes get bigger, by having incredible file sizes and incredible loading times. So, alright. FBX 2012 is fine. We're dealing with MotionBuilder 2013, so it'll handle loading that perfectly okay. We'll click OK, and it's going to export, and we are good to go. So back in MotionBuilder, what we can do is we can go ahead and open up this project. We're going to go to our pictures folder under CG. I've got a 3D modeling folder, and under that we've got Testa, and in the FBX folder we've got the Testa MB. Go ahead and open that up, and yeah, we'll go ahead and save the changes to this 17 file. I don't think I made any other changes, but we're going to go ahead and just save it just to be on the safe side. When we open up Testa, Testa has no takes, no animation, so everything here is good. You don't really need to change much of anything. Bear in mind this here, when I was working on a scene recently, if you open up the same character for whatever reason, the reason why I did it was because I wanted to actually apply some changes I made in Cinema 4D. Actually applied some new clothes, skinned some new clothes to a character, applied a new bone system and whatnot. And I basically wanted to import the character that had the exact same name as another character that was already in MotionBuilder. MotionBuilder is a little finicky about that, having the same name. When it loaded up the character, it just really screwed up my scene. So if you apply a namespace to the character, then that character will have a different namespace than the other characters in the scene. It'll basically have like a prefixed name on top of it that basically makes it unique from all the other characters in the scene, in case there's two of the same character. And that'll be great for being able to transfer motion between one character and another. But in this particular case, we don't need to worry about that. We're going to have one character. So we're going to go ahead and open her up and see what she looks like. And this dialog will come up. You can ignore it. It's basically saying, you know, there's some old 5.5 limits property on the model that's that's coming in for whatever reason, you know, but it hasn't really affected anything for me, so I just let it be. And yeah, she comes in, and we already messed up a little bit, and because she's already posed, and it's because I posed her in here and I forgot that I had done that. Luckily, I think we've got a really nice undo buffer here going, so if we just do Control Z a bunch of times, undo delete of everything, and then undo all our moves, get her back in the T pose, and then go ahead and just redo our deletes, delete the floor, delete, and then do a delete of the poses to make sure that those aren't causing us any issues. Go ahead and save the scene out. We can do that because we actually saved it as a separate copy. And then we go ahead and do a re-export, FBX, and choose Testa MB FBX, and hit yes, and OK to that dialog. We're pretty much golden. You know, we've got our nice T-pose. Remember, your characters have to be in a T-pose. And we haven't really set up any way to really get her back to a T-pose easily without having to do a bunch of undos. If we have time, I'll show you a little bit of rigging stuff so you can quickly see how you can go ahead and just reset PSRs without having to worry about the character collapsing in on itself. But let's go back to MotionBuilder, and we'll go ahead and just reopen her up. And we're not going to save this one. No takes, everything's good to go. And bam. And yeah, I haven't figured MotionBuilder out. Even though it didn't import the materials, I noticed when it's loading, there's like a little status screen somewhere in the menu around here, and it shows that it's loading up JPEGs, but it doesn't quite apply them. Somehow it got our luminance channel. Not that it matters for this pre-visualization. All we're really interested in is the character's overall motion, and we can pretty much tell, you know, how she looks. We can get a basic general idea, and that's the whole idea of pre-visualization here. We get a general idea of where the character is in the scene, what she looks like, and you know, how she's colliding with things. Now, in a production scene, in Cinema 4D, with Cinema 4D, you can actually export not just the character, but you can also export the environment. And what you would do is you would, it would behoove you, especially MotionBuilder seems to really react poorly with incredibly complicated scenes. So I would create, you know, basic primitives, cubes, boxes, spheres, pyramids, triangles, things like that, that approximate, you know, stairs, walls, a car. You know, and you create your proxy objects, and you have your character interact with those here in MotionBuilder. You can make those into rigid bodies. MotionBuilder has physics. You can make those into, you know, props, whatever you need, and you can have your character interact with those and create the motion that you need. And when you take it back into Cinema 4D, that character will react with the objects just like will react with the real objects, just like she reacted with the proxy objects. But you basically have the motion pre-visualized in here, which is great. But anyway, we're gonna go drill down on our scene, and we can see in our scene here that we have just our basic mesh, no more, no less, which is great. We have our dress, no more, no less, and we have our Genesis root node and our hips. Just pretty amazing. We're going to go ahead and characterize the Genesis figure. So we're going to drag this right to the root node of the whole figure, and we're going to hit characterize. And lo behold, we get an error. The characterization process could not be completed because some of the required nodes are missing or do not follow naming conventions. Click OK to view a list of the missing nodes. We'll click OK, and we can see that we apparently don't have any hips, left up leg bone, left leg bone. We don't have any of these bones. What's up with that? Well, if we go down to our character, and what I like to do, especially if I have multiple characters in a scene, is I do like to go here, right click, and do a rename. And we'll call this test underscore character, so we can if we import more characters in the future and have characters interact, we know that this is her character object that's related to her instead of some other character's character object. But if we go into her character object and we go to our character definition, we can't characterize, and this is mainly because we are missing required nodes. That is, MotionBuilder doesn't know our naming convention for our character. We're using a custom naming convention. In particular, we're using the convention that Daz gave us when it exported out. It's got the left thigh named left thigh instead of the left thigh named left up leg. Now, in Cinema 4D, you could come in there and you could actually name these correctly. And then when you came in here, it would auto-characterize, just like it did for the Carnegie Mellon BVH. But just to show you the process, so that if you're using 3ds Max or Maya or anything else, you can come in here and you don't freak out that you can't actually use MotionBuilder's beautiful control rig. I'm going to go ahead and do a manual characterization of this character. So what we need to do is we need to tell MotionBuilder which of these objects are related to the objects that MotionBuilder is expecting. And we really only need to do the base required objects to actually get a characterization. However, you'll notice MotionBuilder has a whole slew of other objects that we can add bones to, in order to make our motions a little bit more precise and a little bit better. If we had a character that had 6 neck joints, for instance, a giraffe or some sort of weird alien woman, or if we want to do hand animations here in MotionBuilder, which I haven't really played around with too much, but I am curious because the rig is so great, as I will soon show you. But let's go ahead and drag our hips. Just grab on the little teapot here and just drag it and drop it right in the hips node. And now we've got the hips. We'll come over here with the left up leg. We know our left thigh bone that we rotated in cinema is our left up leg, so we'll go ahead and drag that to the left up leg. The shin is going to be our left leg, and then underneath the shin we've got our foot, which is going to be our foot. Switch over to the right thigh. The right thigh is the right up leg. The right shin is the right leg. And this naming convention is the same naming convention that's used no matter what you export from DAZ into Cinema 4D. It's always going to have this naming convention. So once you get this process down once, you really don't have to really worry about ever having to get it down again. We're going to use, and I always get a little bit confused, or I always vary it up a little bit. When you create your own rig, you know, you'll know exactly what your spine is supposed to be. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and use the abdomen as our first spine joint instead of our pelvis. And then we've already got our neck bound. Our neck happened to have the same name as MotionBuilder's neck. Drill down on the right collars here. The collars are not the actual left arm. It's the shoulders that are actually the beginning of the left arm and right arm respectively. So it's the left shoulder, the forearm, and then the left hand object for the left, as you can see, and for the right it's going to be the right shoulder. And I'm going to go ahead and drag back over here because I need to actually move down in order to be able to actually see what I'm looking for here. And it's going to be right shoulder, right forearm, and right hand. And with that, we could characterize. However, bear in mind, if you need to characterize DAZ characters on the regular, there is a faster way. Once you're done characterizing for the first time, you can actually hit Extract Naming Template, and you can update the current naming template to match this naming template. And then what you can do is, with the character selected, you can go to File, and you can save just the selection. That is just this character. We can save it to FBX, and we call this Genesis Characterization. And we choose not to export any takes, and we can go ahead and save. And now what you could do is you could actually merge that Genesis Characterization FBX in, and it'll actually import in your naming template. It'll also import in the character. And what's great about that is you could drag the character on top of the Genesis node of any other character, and that character has this naming template built into it. So basically you never have to actually ever do this name dragging template again. So if you wanted to go through, you go through and you can actually put in the correct bones for everything, save out that characterization template, and in the future, anytime you you want to import in a Genesis character, you'll immediately have the naming template, and you'll just immediately be able to characterize. In fact, I think if you drag the character on top, it's going to come up with the characterization button. And because the naming templates match, once you hit that characterize button, you won't get that error that you got, and the character will be immediately characterized. So that's that. With the naming template done and set up, if we hit the check mark to characterize and we tell it's in biped and it's facing the positive z-axis, which it is, our character is characterized. Lovely. Now we can create a control rig. FKIK control rig, and now our character has a control rig. Gorgeous. Real quick with MotionBuilder navigation, I have my layout, if I can find where that is. Preferences. It's actually under interaction modes, if I'm not mistaken. I have mine set to Maya. I just, as I said before in many of my tutorials, I just love Alt left click, Alt middle click, and Alt middle click to zoom, pan, and rotate and orbit my scene. Just love that. And of course, MotionBuilder's default navigation allows you to do some really interesting things with alt clicks, but the trade-off for me to be able to just easily come in here and move, yeah, I accept it. But if we change our display to X-ray, we can see our control rig in all its glory, and we can select nodes and we can quickly get around our character. So real quick before we move on to using story in the next chapter, let's just go through the control rig, some of the basic steps of the control, some of the basic controls of the control rig, and let's see what we can just do, just play around here. Alright, so to start, let's go over some poses here. MotionBuilder and Cinema 4D has this too, and I'll show that off to you guys once we get back in Cinema and actually get to the reusing part of the this pipeline here. But if we go ahead and click this plus button while we're in the control, while we're in the pose controls, we can create a snapshot of this pose. And if we go ahead and hit, we go ahead and right click and hit rename, we can go ahead and rename this to, let's go ahead and just rename this to Testa T-pose. And the beauty of this is, if we come through and we start playing with our rig here, and just like in Cinema 4D, we've got our FK system. You know, it makes sense that we would want to go ahead and actually rotate the shoulders. I mean that makes sense. We can switch if we want to actually see this, because I'm finding that with this I really want to see my local rotations rather than my globals. We can come over here to our tool panel here, and we can change this to local, so we can actually see our local rotations. And now I can get a better idea of where I'm rotating the shoulder at, get a better idea of what I'm looking at here. But yeah, you know, I mean, you know, you want to do FK on the shoulder, so that's cool. It's an FK system. It's a FKIK rig. We can go ahead and do FK. But what's really great is with our translation mode selected, we can't translate the shoulder. The shoulder is an FK control. However, we can translate the elbow. And in Maya and Cinema 4D and 3ds Max, I mean, you've got pole vectors, sure, and they give you this control. But I just clicked on the elbow control, and I'm just moving it, and it's so much more responsive than any pole vector that I've dealt with. The hand control, and I like to move these. I definitely like to move these in global mode. But yeah, we've got full IK, beautiful IK. I mean, between moving the hand controls, I mean, I'm quickly getting motion done. Here, I can move that out, and I can just quickly go through. I can IK the chest control or FK the chest control if I want. Move the chest down. Can't move the chest down, but I can move it left and right. I can move it back and forth in the Z-axis. And I mean, this is smooth, this is quick, this is simple. I can quickly pose her pretty rapidly. I can hit the plus button to keep adding extra poses, and I can actually animate between these poses, which is amazing. If I want to get back to my T-pose, I just click in this empty black space in the in this character dummy window here. Click twice. You want to click until what you see all your objects selected. And what's interesting about this this pose system is it will update specific body parts. If you have one body part selected, it's just going to only update that body part. For instance, if I select the shoulder and I double click on the T-pose, lo behold, the shoulder goes back to the T-pose, as well as the rest of its hierarchy for that matter, because they're all in the same hierarchy, which is amazing. However, the whole body didn't go back to the T-pose. If, like I said, I double click in here and I have everything selected, then lo behold, it goes back to T-pose. I also believe you can just have nothing selected and it should go back to T-pose. It should automatically go back. It assumes everything's selected if nothing is selected. So, but anyway, we've got full IK here. We can move the hips down and the legs move with it. We can move the hips side to side, back and forth, and our legs perfectly just